about a 15-hour drive, we made our way up to Matagami. And this was where we grabbed the float planes. We had a de Havilland beaver and an otter to take our gear up. We're in the process of loading up. We then lashed two 14-foot boats on the pontoons and tied them up to the struts on the airplane. We put a 55-gallon drum of gas inside and all of our gear for 2 weeks actually, and climbed in and got on top of it. And you can see the second plane coming in. It took 2 planes to get all of our gear and all 6 of us up there. And we picked this island so the bears wouldn't bug us. And it was just an absolutely gorgeous spot. We made a big frame for our tent out of little saplings, lashed them together, and then we grabbed a bunch of moss that was laying back in the woods, filled it up, and put it underneath our tent so we'd have a really, really smooth, soft bed to lay on. And it was really comfortable. Here you see Larry, Jack Gayer, and Ken Brady putting a bunch of this moss that just pulled up off the ground into a tarp, and then they would drag it over to the tent. We'd pack it down on the ground. That was about 6 inches deep, but it was just like a downy, soft mattress. We had a gear tent, we had a sleeping tent, and then we set up another screened-in shelter for cooking and eating. It was a fantastic spot. There was a nice breeze coming in off the lake. We put a couple of barriers up, stretched some tarps on some wooden frames we made out of logs, and that's what we used to break the wind. That's our supply tent, and that's our dining and cooking tent. There you can see one of those structures we put up to keep the wind from blowing us over. Now isn't this a sight? Larry just finished taking a crap back in our toilet in the woods, and Jack's brushing his teeth not 50 feet away. Wonder if he knows what's going on behind him. There we had a good supply of firewood. We had our tent set up. It was just a lot of fun making that camp. It took us, the better part of the first day to get things set up. And we did do some fishing that night, because it didn't get dark until about 11 o'clock at night. Just a gorgeous spot. Nice sandy beach. Boats were a little crowded with 3 people in them, but we were able to make them do. We were so far north that it didn't get dark until about 11:30 at night, so that really made for a long day. This was our fish totem. We took the fish heads from some of the northern pike and the walleyes that we cleaned and nailed them up on this tree. And man, it was a really cool looking thing. Wonder if they're still there. This was our front porch before we went in the tent. We had a place to knock the sand off our boots. And it was a bench I made. Man, I had a lot of fun with the bushcraft up there. We had a nice bench to sit down on in front of the fire and just lashed stuff together. Must have brought a smoke grenade along with me from National Guard and wasted it right here on the beach like we wouldn't need it later on in the week. But hey, we had fun. This was our first morning out on the lake, and oh my gosh, it was a beautiful day. The sun was shining, and take a look at that northern pike. The thing probably weighed about 15 pounds, and I think it was the first fish that we caught, and what a monster. It was just unbelievable, unbelievable. Sometimes we'd have 3 fish on at the same time in the same boat. We would use nothing but spoons. We used red eyes, and we used Johnson silver spoons. Different colors produced different results, but just about anything you could throw out there would produce fish. We try to find a bay where a stream would feed into it, and it hadn't been long that the ice was off the lake, so water was still really, really cold. And these bays were maybe, I don't know, 5-6 feet deep. And the grass was just starting to come up. But man, oh man, talk about hammering fish. Here's one that June snagged into. Look at that thing. They were just a ball to catch. We caught so many pike that we took some of the hooks off, some of the treble hooks off of the lures so that the pike wouldn't be hooked so bad. And we'd catch them and throw them back in and catch more, and wow, what fishing. We'd bring them up to the side of the boat, and we could grab them by the gills, or right behind the gills, if they were up to about 15 pounds. Man, if they went over 15 pounds, we had to grab them by the eye sockets. And these were some monster fish. Look at the size of that pike. We were fishing with medium spinning tackle, and we put about a 8-inch wire leader on the end of a 15-pound test. So it wasn't real heavy, but we sure got a lot of action. Somebody out there just had a little too much time on their hands and happened to have a camera nearby. That's what you call a half bath. Pulling in a little pike, but he's just not quite sure how to handle that thing yet. He said, I don't know, man. We said, look, Bill, those fish cannot swim backwards, so just go for it. Check that out, 2 15 to 18 pound pike at the same time. And it was not unusual to have 3 in the boat at the same time. We made this fish holding pen so we could put some of our walleyes in there every day, And then we take the smaller ones, let them out, and leave the bigger ones in. And then at the end of the week, we were able to pick up our catch and take them home. We were allowed to bring 6 walleyes each home. This is unbelievable. June caught a little walleye, and before he could get it up to shore, a northern pike attacked it. We hooked this pike up to the scale, and I'm signaling 1-6, so that was a 16-pound pike. We'd spend most of the day fishing for northern pike, but then getting around lunchtime, we'd go up into a little stream and snag a few walleyes for lunch, and we'd also catch enough walleyes to take back and have for dinner. We ate fish every day. We didn't catch any monster walleyes, but they probably averaged, I'd say around 3 to 4 pounds. Just really good eating size. June caught a pretty nice walleye here, so I got the net, and this was probably about a 5-pound fish. We usually didn't get the net, but this was a big one, big fat walleye. Look at that baby. June stood on that rock with a little jig and a white twister tail, made 14 casts, and caught 14 walleyes in a row. Even though the sun was out, it was still cold, so we wore our rain gear as a windbreaker most of the time. And we wore cotton gloves covered with rubber gloves a lot of times to keep our hands warm. So after all that hard work fishing, it's time to pull up and set up for a shore lunch. We'd bring our fish in, we'd clean them, we'd build a little fire on a rock like this beside the stream we were catching them in, throw a skillet in there with some bacon grease in it, fry up some potatoes, and have a fresh walleye lunch. It just does not get any better than that. You can see here where the lake empties out and creates a small stream. And this is where the walleyes would congregate, and man, we'd pull in there, things would be a little quiet, the wind would die down because we're behind the trees, and great spot for our lunch and a midday break. Here's June getting ready to settle down and clean some fish for lunch. I got elected as the camp cook, so we take those fresh walleye fillets, roll them in Drake's batter, put some bacon grease in the skillet, and fry them up. Man, it just does not get better than fresh fish. Take a look at that. Oh, I forgot to mention, some days the black flies were so thick that when they'd fly over the skillet, it'd cook their little wings off, they'd drop down on the fish and look like sesame seeds. Catching fish is exhausting. Cleaning them and eating them makes you just want to lay down on a rock and take a nap. After a great lunch and a little siesta, it's time to head back out and catch more northern pike. We did that every day. Wow. You can see that copper-colored red eye. Man, that was a great lure, and that was a good color. We'd modify them a little bit. We would take the factory treble hook off the back and replace it with a reinforced treble. And then we'd take the two hooks off the front of that lure and just throw them away, because it was too hard to get the fish unhooked after we'd catch them. Tied a pair of jaw spreaders onto each boat, and that would open up the pike's mouth and make it a lot easier to get the hook out. And minutes later, Larry's got another pike. That is some serious action. Well, it's our last day, and all good things must come to an end. So we gathered up our fish, took them back to our camp, and loaded up the coolers and started to break things down. So here's our limit of 36 walleyes to take home. What a catch! Final ride into camp. This would be our last evening, and off we go back to Ohio.